All right, back at it. We are off and running. AEA Institute Mental Edge Academy. How the best coaches in football use the summer. And we got Dr. Pat Ivey on today with Louisville Athletics, and we'll get into his bio and him in a little bit. But Pat, thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
All right, why we're here. Let's be intentional. The summer is the most undercoached 12 weeks in football for some, right? It's not a lack of effort. It's just different depending on the team, the demographic, the resources. But the difference is that when there's a time to get better and there's time when everyone's doing it, it's those things that we do on the outside. The extra stuff is where we're going to make an impact. And it's hard to replicate during the off season in the summer because there aren't games hanging over your head. But we're trying to do is be more intentional with the time that we have and make an impact. So who do we have here today? Dr. Pat Ivey. This is this is round 3 with him and me on a couple different podcasts, working together on a sets and reps podcast. We've done other webinars together, but senior associate AED, played football, University of Missouri, went on to the NFL, now has his PhD. He builds athletes from the inside out, mentally and physically, and we are really lucky to have you here today, Pat.
I'm excited, Jim. Let's get this thing going.
So this picture right here, this is from Summer Strong. Is that this year?
Yes, that is from last Saturday, last weekend.
Just real quick, just tell me about that real quick and everyone else.
Well, I didn't know I was going to do it. I was down there for a conference, but this Summer Strong, Sorinex is the exercise equipment company. They do a few competitions. So I actually helped I would say, I was running the microphone for the squat competition, and then I caught the feeling and thought maybe I'll do a quick warm up, see how I feel. And there was a tribute to Pop Soren, who started Sorinex, and anyone that lifted 500 pounds. The idea is that would be in honor of Pops, and his picture is up on the wall. So if you're able to get that lift and you turn around, you point at him, and just kind of a tribute. And for me, it was definitely significant because I'm just working my way back from a motorcycle accident, and that was the heaviest I had gone since the accident. So it was had some significance in many different ways.
Beautiful, beautiful. You can see the emotion, and who doesn't like a big deadlift? But here's my approach. Here was our approach for what we're doing tonight and this summer. What we did was we took 6 elite level coaches. They are all about a whole bunch of things. Like, I can't say Nick Saban is just only about mental performance. He's about a lot of different things. So we took one pillar from each coach that they're definitely known for, and we want to make sure that we replicated in the checklist we sent out and the guide that we're giving you guys later, a bunch of actionable items that we were able to cultivate from them. In addition, we want to make sure they correlated with what we do with our products and services. So the things we highlight are things that we want to make sure we gave you like a do-it-yourself model, so you can handle a lot of these things yourselves. But if you want to consider working with us, then you want to encourage that to happen. So what we're going to do today is go over these 6 different components. I'm going to tee it up for you, Pat, and see what you just hear your thoughts and speak freely about the different topics. And the first one, mental performance architect, Nick Saban doesn't really need any introduction, but he wasn't obviously louder than anyone else this summer. But he was his approach was systemic, and you can teach the skills of focus, and focus is a skill, a choice and a skill. And I remember from the last time you and I talked, that was one of the things that you pointed out. So, Pat, what does daily mental performance training actually look like at Louisville?
Well, it's all over the board. We have 23 sport teams, so it's different with every sports team. We have mental performance specialists, so we call them coaches. But if you think about it like this, Jim, there's the training room where you have sports medicine, where you go, you have swollen ankle, you're coming back from rehab. We know what the training room is. And then there's the weight room. It makes sense. They work together. Athletes that get dinged up or they need to get back to full 100% or 90%, whatever it is, they're in the training room. They're doing rehab. They're in the hot and cold tubs. They're using modalities. And then when it comes to getting stronger, faster, bigger, more explosive, where do you go? You go to the weight room. Most people stop there. They don't think that there is a mental training room where you go to help heal mentally, and then a place you can go to actually perform better mentally, where you can get faster, stronger, tougher, more resilient. Just like the physical weight room, there's a mental weight room. So mental performance is just like strength and conditioning. We say mental health is just like sports medicine, where you're in the training room. So we have therapists that help us on the mental side for mental health. And then we have athletic trainers and physical therapists that help us in the athletic training room. And both of those things work together. This physical and mental coordination happens between professionals. So what it looks like at the University of Louisville, we have a large mental performance team. We have a large mental health team. Each one of our therapists and specialists have their team assignments, but we have enough people that we can actually specialize where if athletes want specific individuals, they have that ability to seek those individuals out to get the help that they need. So my goal is to make sure that all of that is working together. It's all integrated. We have the resources, making sure it's integrated. So it looks different for each team. Some coaches are really super bought in. They want it. They believe it. They live it. They want more of it. And we have some that are still thinking like, okay, is this some sort of magic? And this is where the education has to come in, where we spend a lot of time helping coaches to understand that, hey, mental performance specialists are not to take your athletes out of competition. It's actually to enhance them so that they're better in competition. And some of the old school coaches, that takes a little bit more work, and we have to actually work on them and help them to understand what this is all about. And once they see some success, and most of that success happens when their athletes come back and tell them, "Hey, this is what helped me." Then the coaches usually they buy in.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, obviously, bigger schools, smaller schools had different budgets and capacities, and high school is definitely different than college. So I'm gonna get a little more granular on some of the approaches. So one of the things that heard you say that if you wanna get bigger, faster, stronger, that's in the weight room. And if I asked you what's a good rate for a speed rep on squat or bench or something like that, you're gonna say it's around a meter per second, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere around
yeah,
there.
yeah, point nine, point
Point
nine,
0.9.
point eight, point nine, 1 meter per second.
Sure. So
Mm.
the way I measure speed in the mental part is maybe for some players, it takes them 9 hours to shake off a play. Maybe it's 90 minutes. Maybe it's 9 minutes. Maybe it's 9 seconds. And in football, 9 seconds is a long time. And if you're running the 100, 9 seconds is a long time, right? So what's an approach to speeding up that ability to shake off a play that didn't go your way?
Well, you need to understand it's about living in the moment, being in the present. We do a call and response where we say, "Where are you?" The response is right here, right now. It's hard to deliver your best performance if you're living in the past too far and too far in the future. So with football and different sports, we let the athletes choose. So with football, we said, all right, 5 seconds is what you get to forget the last play. Good, bad, ugly, you scored a touchdown, you got scored on, whatever it is. 5 seconds is that amount of time, and then you need to be moving on to the next play mentally. Basketball, I shared it with the basketball team. I said, hey, in football, we say 5 seconds. How much time do you think you have to let the last play go before you need to be dialed in and focused on the next play? And they told me 3 seconds. Now, that's not research, but if the players themselves said, if the time goes longer than 3 seconds, that's detrimental to my performance, then that is the best way to engage those athletes. So I would talk to your athletes and say, okay, how much time do you think you can give to the last play before you need to switch over to be ready for the next play?
When they give you the answer, or if you lean on your captains and they give you an answer, there now you're creating buy-in, then you create a standard, and you say, "Hey, we're working for at least this year, we're working at with the 5-second rule," right?
Exactly. And when you engage your players and just ask them that question, here's what you know as a coach. You want them to move on to the next play. Where you get buy-in, and the research calls it self-determination theory, and there's some other theories out there. But if you can give them autonomy where they think they had the option to come up with that time, then there's more buy-in. There's
Yes.
more intrinsic motivation for them to look at each other and say, hey, 3 seconds, or hey, 5 seconds. Hey, man, it's been 10 seconds, or what are you doing? Like, let it go. Here's the standard. And they can coach each other up, which is the best form of implementing mental performance with your team, is when your players can look at themselves and help each other because they've been taught and they have these skills.
You mentioned before that, in the summer, that first game in August, September, depending on high school or college, is a long ways away. Talk about the mental approach of being intentional on Sunday before the whole week starts, as you enter the weight room, as you go to treatment, as you go about your business. And make no mistake, with players getting paid what they're paid, it's absolutely a business. And even if they weren't, it was a business before then too. So talk about the being intentional as a mental approach and dialing in the summer and getting your team on the same page.
This is a great question, Jim. I had an athlete call me. One of my former athletes, who's a coach now, had his athlete call me. And last week, this was the conversation. He wants to be ready for the season. And he's trying to think, what can I do now to be ready for the season? Our conversation started with today, that day. What can you do that day? Meaning, if you're training, if it's lifting, if it's running, if it's school, whatever it is, can you start applying these skills, your mental skills, to the task that you're facing currently? Because you have to practice being focused because you want to be focused in practice. So I'll say it one more time, Jim. You have to practice being focused so you can be focused in practice. And it may take that I'm going to try this on my bench press, a different focused technique where I'm thinking about my self talk. I'm thinking about getting into my zone. I'm thinking about concentration, blocking out distractions. I'm locking in on this bench press. And I'm going to learn something about that approach that I am then going to take to practice. And then I'm going to take it from practice to the scrimmages, from the scrimmages to the games, from preseason to in season to postseason. I'm going to keep building on these skills. But you have to start somewhere. And the best place to start is whatever you're doing today.
Gotcha. Absolutely. One of the things that I get pushback on when I'm teaching meditation and breathing, just the basics of box breathing, I say you want to listen to your heart rate, try to push any thought out. And when a thought comes in, recognize it, and then I usually try to inhale that thought through my nose and push it out through my mouth, and they say, "Well, who cares about that? Why is that a big deal?" I said, "The breathing isn't really the deal in this instance. The point of when I'm doing this drill is that when a thought comes in that doesn't really need to be there, you have a process of pushing it out quickly so you can redirect your focus. So if a thought comes in, "Hey, I could mess up here," or "the crowd this," or "this last play that," my thought is breathe this thought in and then breathe it back out so I can then redirect my focus. To your point that can you be intentional? Can you redirect your brain? Can you be in charge of it? My last question on this one topic, and then we'll move on, about mental performance. There's no way it's just you on that football field. So talk about the approach of if you're working on being intentional, that guy that just called you, about how an athlete can make a difference on the team by dragging someone else along with them, by impacting that person's performance in the summer, getting them more intentional and ready for the season.
It becomes part of your culture. If your athletes are supporting each other, encouraging one another, they're watching the coaching staff do that with each other. Coaches encouraging one another. Coaches encouraging athletes. I've been a part of an environment where it became so strong of a culture that the players were encouraging the coaches. And that's when you know, all right, they are bought in. My players are bought in because they know the coaches are bought in. The coaches know the players have these skills, so they're not going to try to maybe design this wild trick play. I don't need to call this trick play because my players are dialed in and focused and they have the right level of intensity and which is overall focus. I know that as a coach. Now, my players know the players will know that the coaches believe in them. They believe they have these skills, this mental skill set to, hey, it doesn't matter if we're up by 2 touchdowns or down by 2 touchdowns or basketball, whatever the sport is. It doesn't matter because my players have been trained to think one play at a time. And when you know that, there's a confidence with each other and there's a confidence in the program because your players and your team will look across the field and say, that other team does not have what we have because we've been practicing this for so long and implementing it. They don't have it. Look at them arguing with each other. Look at them throwing helmets on the sideline. Look at them arguing with coaches, not being coachable. They'll see that, and then that'll increase your team's confidence. I've seen it time after time where players would come over to the sideline and they'll be on the field and they'll be pointing at their temple like, yeah, we have it up here, they don't. And that's real confidence when you know you have something your opponent doesn't have.
So empowering. All right, Kirby Smart, two-time champion. So the top programs are always recruiting at the highest level. One of the things that he is also known for is the same language. I was at Ohio State recently for the coaches clinic, and I had Ryan Day was up there talking about his 5 C's of leadership. But one of the things he talked about is that how leaders must be seen, felt, and heard. It was funny because when I had Mickey Marotti on my podcast 2 years prior, he said leaders must be seen, felt, and heard. And it was the same phrase 2 years apart, same guys in the same building, and I was like, "Oh, man, language is important, and, the standard is a standard." So, Pat, first question, how do you get an entire athletic department speaking the same language? So you guys are working together, you guys are communicating well because that's important.
It definitely starts with the leader. The leader has to set the standard and set the tone. You have to repeat it. It has to be simple enough. I can still remember the team bottom line standard from 10 plus years ago when I was coaching. And I can remember the athletic department's goals and standards, core values from 10 plus years ago. And I've been at other places since then, but when it's done from the top down, when you print it on t-shirts, when you put it up on the walls, when it's on the playbook, and you spend time going over that while you're trying to teach new plays, you teach the players that this is just as important as you learning the playbook. And your coaches have to be echoing the same thing that the head coach is saying. And it'll live, it'll grow, it'll breathe. But when you can involve the players and have them contribute as well, then that's when you get total buy-in from a whole entire team.
Different landscape over the last 5 years, the best programs still have 30, 40, 50, 60 person turnover from the portal. At the high school level, there's new captains, the seniors graduate, same thing in college. Freshmen come up, JV comes up, there's new people and new roles. Do you have, like, an approach to keeping that language flowing down? "Hey, guys, you guys are the new group. Gotta learn a new culture. You coming into Louisville this year, first time. You came from Marshall, whole new culture, a whole new language." Is there a process of indoctrinating that new set of leaders on down?
I think if you look at the most successful programs, if you boiled everything down, they would be very similar in what they expect and what their standards are. I think the most successful programs eliminate the distractions. So you are bringing in 30, 40, 50, 60 new players. Most of them understand that we're going to work hard. Like, yeah,
Yep.
we're going to work hard. We're going to be on time. That makes sense. I kind of expect that in a successful program. We're going to be on time. We're going to communicate well. I would expect that. We're going to be respectful. We're going to respect these groups of people. Those things are going to be universal in every program. The most successful programs identify the distractions and help the athletes to deal with those distractions on an individual basis and then on a team basis. Most of the time, the old school way is, hey, leave all your crap at the door. It's only about football when you walk in here. A more evolved, successful way, I believe, is to look at each one of those players that walk through the door and help them to leave their baggage at the door rather than making one blanket general statement. I don't think athletes today have that ability to just say, hey, this is what we're all doing. I believe that we spend a lot of time recruiting them as individuals. Then all of a sudden, soon as you get here, that's gone. And to go back to Nick Saban, I heard him say at a national conference,
I remember the
uh,
story, it's a good one.
there was a coach who had some okay success, was on stage right before Nick Saban. And this is at the AFCA conference. That coach said, hey, there's no I in team. It's big team, little me. It's only about the name on the front of your jersey, not on the back. And that's what most coaches had echoed that sentiment for years. We had T-shirts made that said those things, big team, little me. Nick Saban, as that coach is walking off stage, Nick Saban's walking on stage, and he says, it's all about the I in team. It's all about the individual. It's all about maximizing the individual so that individual is bringing the best version of themselves so that you have a locker room full of guys that are the best version of themselves, which gives you the best opportunity to be the best team you can be.
Oh, man.
I don't know how that coach felt.
Not good.
Probably not good, but it was shocking to the audience. And it was interesting that Nick Saban would come that strong with that sort of mindset. And that is counter to a lot of old school coaching. Like, listen, it's not about the name on the back of your jersey. It's only about the name on the front. Well, in my dissertation, I studied elite NFL football players, and the common thread was they do things because of the pride they have in their name. So I think most successful programs, yeah, you're bringing in a lot of players, but how do you help them to deal with their issues so that they can then focus on football or whatever sport they're playing?
You get rid of some of that drag. They can run faster mentally and physically. Best version of them comes out, and if they can align all their individual goals with the team, now it gets really fun. Now it gets really fun.
Exactly.
All right, player-led leadership. Dabo Swinney, our two-time champ. Summers are famously player-driven. By the time camp starts, captains have already established who runs the locker room and the culture. So people aren't here for you. You're here for people. If I'm here to serve, I'm here to help people win. That's directly from you on servant leadership, a whole topic you and I got into pretty deep. So servant leadership look like in a captain development for you, Pat, when you're trying to teach these captains to be servant leaders. And we talked about the I in team, right? The
Right.
servant leaders. Talk about how we evolve that maturation process in those players.
It takes time. You have to understand where every player is and then help them to progress from where they are. That takes a lot of time and energy. It's easy just to address the group and say, hey, this is what I expect. Now do it. It takes so much more intention and uh, I would say energy to look at each one of your players and say, how do I help player A, B, C, D to progress from where they are to where, because everyone's at a different level. Everyone's at a different place. You got different skill sets, you got different talent, you have different positions, different injuries, things happen. How do we take each one of our people and develop them to be the best that they can be? And I think one of the things that when you talk about captains, like you have to pull your captains aside. You have to identify who they are. You have to identify who your leaders are. You should do a leadership council. You should go through and read different books like Jim Collins and teaching them about the laws of teamwork and John Gordon books. You should spend time with those people because they're with you for a few hours a day, but they're with themselves and each other for most of the day. So you have to develop the people that are going to be setting the culture when you're not around in the locker room, on the weekends, at night, whatever it is. You need to have developed and spent time developing the leadership because everything is it rises and falls on leadership.
There's no way the whole team is run by just one coach. That's why he had all these assistant coaches. He needs support. There's other lieutenants on the field. And if you get some more sergeants with playing the captain's role and even below them, right? It's more and more buy-in, more and more momentum, and people start working for each other. I mentioned before how Mickey said he must be seen, heard, and felt. And what they maintained was if you're just seen doing the right things and they hear the right words out of your mouth, you're simply compliant. And compliant is important. But to lead is different. You have to be felt and feel the authenticity coming from you. Pat, do you have approach for working with some of those folks that have the potential to be leaders, some actions you take that are kind of quiet, that lead by example, which is huge, and that's a has to be step one, but getting them to be a little more vocal in a leadership role. It's not for everybody, but you have a few steps for that.
Every year, every summer, we're trying to establish that. We're trying to establish that in the off season. And every year I have to re-explain what leadership is. So we would go through books where we would go through the 5 levels of leadership. Some some of the best leaders were not very vocal at all. But when they spoke, everyone listened and paid attention. So you have to identify who those people are. You also have to encourage them that even if you're not the person up front giving the vocal instructions, that doesn't mean you're not the leader. If you took someone and brought them with you and you went in the right direction, you led them. That's leadership. So I would say there's all sorts of leaders. We're going to have people out front giving the hype speech. We're going to have people that are going to be in the back making sure everyone is bringing up the rear. We're going to have people that are young leaders, older leaders, position leaders. We're going to have captains. We're going to have leaders at every different level possible. And if you're someone that people tend to do what you tell them to do, we need you to bring that. If you're someone that can grab 4 or 5 other people and do some extra catches, then we need you to do that. We need you, maybe you don't even consider yourself a leader. Well, we can say, okay, can you lead yourself? Yeah, that's easy to say, but I don't know how much it means. But grab someone else and help them to become better. That's the minimum of what we expect.
When I was talking to my 2 boys about leading themselves, like you said, like, "Dad, come on, man, how do I do that?" Always getting pushback. They're always pushing back on dad. I said, "How about this? Can you keep your room in order and your car in order on the way to school, have your bed made and be somewhere on time every time you need to be someplace? Can you be early? Can you have your life in order? Can you just clean out your car and your room and be someplace early every time?" That's those are 3 basic steps on leading yourself.
I
Start
think
there.
giving practical examples is big for working with athletes today.
Oh,
And the
yes.
more examples you can give, great. I love to ask the players who can give an example to the rest of the team on what leading yourself looks like.
Yeah.
And hopefully one of your credible athletes is one of the ones that's speaking up. Because if it's not, you gotta call that out.
Too
Like,
bad
"Hey,
for it.
if this person is speaking up," and I would always ask the players, if someone stepped up and they spoke up and said, "Oh, yeah, this is how I lead myself," I would turn back and ask the team, "Does he do that?" And most of the time they would say, "Yeah,
Mhm.
he's pretty true to what he said." It's like, "Okay, good."
Some schools, they'll have an FCA group, and some players will start leading
Yeah.
athletes there and helping clean up some extracurricular behaviors. So maybe they're not as wild at night during practice, during game week, or sometimes, heaven forbid, the night before games, and they're just leading people off the field so that they're better prepared when they're on the field a little bit, and just those pieces alone. Hey, can you lead them off the field a little bit in their extracurriculars? Not drinking, right? Getting hydrated. I tell the kids, "Can you have a packet of water, like you buy a 24 pack, always have a packet of water in your car. You got a cooler, just keep it all summer long, keep hydrated." So, but if I can give them actual tangible items, then I think sometimes I have a better shot. Alright. Pillar 4 or 6, adaptability and edge habits. Ryan Day, Ohio State, he wins a bunch also. Obviously not just about talent, sustained focus on the controllable. You talked about that focus. Weekly habits that don't break because we're looking for the compound interest effect. Team identity built around adapting faster than opponents. It's Darwin said it wasn't the strongest that survived or the smartest, it's the one that adapted the best. So control the controllables, standards over feelings, never play the victim. That's one of our core topics in our session. So, Pat, growth mindset, adaptability, these aren't just slogans, right? How do you teach them daily and build?
There's a really good book by Carol Dweck, Growth Mindset. So that's where a lot of researchers have drawn a lot of good information from. And basically, is do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? I know a lot of teachers were reading that book a few years back as well. Growth mindset is the ability that you believe you have the ability to learn and adapt and grow. Fixed mindset, you believe you only been dealt one hand and that's the hand you have to play. You don't really believe in that you're going to get another hand or you can reshuffle the deck and kind of move things around a little bit. It's important to identify your players who have fixed mindsets and those who have growth mindset. If they have a growth mindset, they just need a little bit of direction and which way to go, and then you let them go. If they have a fixed mindset and they think that, well, the depth chart is already set and you coaches have already made up your mind, so I might as well leave or I'm never going to play. That's a fixed mindset. You don't believe you can do something about your situation. So there are techniques that you can use with those fixed mindset people. And sometimes your staff members, if you're a head coach, sometimes you have staff members that have fixed mindset. And you have to deal with that because that is going to that's going to bleed over into the team. And if you want to have the ability to make adjustments and to roll with the punches, your travel schedule got off, or the bus caught a flat tire, these things that happen, if you want the ability to be able to adapt to those different situations, then you have to model those. You have to model adaptability. You have to model having a growth mindset. If you don't have a growth mindset, don't expect your staff to, they're going to be frustrated. Either they're not going to have a growth mindset or they're going to be frustrated with you. So the best way and I don't know how in today's times we cannot be adaptable with it, with all the information that's coming to us, with the way technology has changed the game and continues to change the game with AI and all of these other instruments that we can use. If we don't have the ability to adapt and have a growth mindset, we're going to get passed up. I know I've heard the saying, AI may not take your job, but someone who is using AI will. And I think that's part of having a growth mindset is, okay, I may not know as much about it, but I can hire someone that does, and maybe they can teach me. That's still having a growth mindset.
I'm not sure how to bring this question together, so I'm just gonna give it a shot. When players are or people have more of a fixed approach, a lot of times it's ego protecting. "Oh, that coach just don't like me, he never will, I can't change his mind. I can't do anything differently, it's all him." Or sometimes, like you said, it's the staff that's the problem, and they're like, "Oh, that kid can never be anything, he'll always suck." Or, "He's the best because he's the fastest, he doesn't drop the balls," or whatever. There has to be a lot of value, though, you said adaptability, where the player or the coach says, "You know what? I was just flat out wrong on that play. I was flat out wrong on that approach." And it really exposes their ego and their vulnerability, but adapting like that builds a lot of trust. So are you guys able to encourage that hard coaching, but also that extreme ownership where, hey, mistakes happen, but still play fast, right? Is there an approach that you guys utilize?
I think there's a saying that we lean on where it gives us the green light to do that. You can be demanding, but don't be demeaning. So demanding, not demeaning. Be as demanding as you want to be, but it's never okay to be disrespectful. Like you just don't come back from that. If you want the athlete to continue to improve and grow and get better, keep demanding, keep educating, keep teaching, keep coaching, and then they will eventually get better. Obviously, we want all conference and all state and all Americans across the board. That's not the reality for most teams. So how do you find a way to invest in every player? I think it still comes back to we have to shift our mindset. Yes, we have a team, but we have a team full of individuals. How do we help each person to maximize their potential? How do we help each coach to maximize their potential as a coach? Professional development, reading books. Like you can't waste a day when you're trying to win a championship.
All right. Next piece. Dan Lanning is all about investing into his staff. We worked in reverse of how we should have, and maybe we should have started with the mind. This is a quote from you, Pat, because everything starts with a thought. Pat, you administer a whole department of coaches. You work with them in a lot of different roles. What does sustainable coach development look like today? And you mentioned AI.
Wow, that is a really good question. I think anytime you can do something and it improves you personally, it should have some carryover to your professional life. I think any professional development you do, if it's the right professional development, it helps you with your personal life as well. So those two things go back and forth and they help you as a coach. For me, coaches need to find time to invest in themselves. A lot of times, many coaches are busy pouring into the athletes and not really taking the time for themselves to invest in themselves, to get enough sleep, to eat right, to continue to train, get your walks in, get your cardio in. You have to be an example of what you want from your players. No, you don't need to go out and pass the conditioning test that you're asking them to do. But you do need to be, if you want to have the most amount of respect from your players, they do need to see something in you of what you're asking in them. And I think when I say we worked in reverse, what's amazing is when I was at Missouri, the reason why we started going down the path of exploring sports psychology and mental performance is because of what Nick Saban was doing at Alabama. And there's a term, I'm going to drop it. I'm not going to do this too much, but there's a term called institutional isomorphism. And what that is we're going to do it because someone else is doing it. And there are a lot of people that want to know, well, who else is doing it? And then they want to eventually do it. And so for us, I feel like we worked in reverse because towards the end of our run is when we started really, and when we had the success we had when we transitioned to the SEC, we were heavy into the mental, I would say, instruction and the interventions with the team. But what we started with was, can you pass the conditioning test? Are you strong enough physically? If I'm going to start a program over from scratch, the mind controls the body. Why would I start with something that doesn't control itself? I'm gonna start with the mind because the mind controls the body. And if I want the body to develop, then I'm going to make sure the mind is as strong as it can be. So then I have a total, complete athlete. And if I do that with a whole team, I have a team in a locker room full of mentally tough and physically tough athletes. I think I give myself the best chance to have the success we can have when we have checked all of those boxes.
I wonder what the coaching staff and all your teams think when they see that 500-pound deadlift. And how old are you, Pat?
53.
53, young, right? Well, leading from the front. I love that. How about this guy, Kurt Cignetti? Geez, OP, what a run, right? My goodness, identity before performance. And one of your faster acronyms is about overall, eating and recovery. But Cignetti is talking about identity and having these habits build your identity. And once it's interwoven into your identity, like if you say I'm a doer or I'm a sales guy, right? Or I'm a veteran or I'm an army ranger, right? Or I'm a drinker, right? Or I'm a Catholic or whatever you are. You say these things and it kind of, well, it defines your habits and your habits define who you are. Talk about how your acronym for faster, but also how the identity precedes performance.
Yeah, let me attack the faster first. So that's one of those things I can still recite. And I'm hoping the athletes that we taught can still recite that. So we would tell them, do you want to be faster or slower? What are they going to say?
Faster.
Faster. Okay, if you want to be faster, then you need to fill up on fruits and vegetables, always hydrate, start with breakfast, think lean protein, eat often, rest and recover. And then that becomes ingrained. We put it on t-shirts. All right. And that helps them to make sure that they're fueled properly. Now, talking about identity before performance, 80% of all of our thoughts as human beings are negative thoughts.
Yes.
80%. Then 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. They just keep repeating them. We think one thought at a time. So if we got a negative thought, if you don't break the cycle, then the negative thoughts keep coming. So identity comes into, what do you believe about yourself? Well, what you say about yourself impacts your belief and how you feel about yourself. So we teach the athletes positive affirmations. And that is, and you were speaking some of those positive affirmations when you brought up this particular slide. I am tough. I am fast. I'm in shape. I'm ready. I have good hands. Like all of those things that you tell yourself. And then it becomes the I, what does the we? We are good. We are ready. We are fast. We are explosive. We are well trained. We're mentally tough. When you can constantly repeat those positive affirmations, that impacts and affects your identity and who you believe you are. And it's important that you spend some time helping the players to know who they are. So one of the things, so here's a practical example. We had someone from campus come over and do the personality assessments and looking at leadership qualities, looking at all of the things that I think everyone here on the call here has probably done these assessments. We thought it would be something pretty awesome to do just to try it to see how it worked. But we learned something from our players. We learned that the more they learned about themselves and the more they shared with each other what they learned about themselves, the more they trusted each other. And I think that's something every coach wants is a locker room full of athletes, your players that trust each other. But it's really hard to trust each other when everyone or a lot of people don't know who they are. Like if you don't know who you are and you're not able to communicate to others who you are, it becomes a barrier to developing trust. And that's a pillar for success. So if I'm thinking and I'm paying attention to Kurt Cignetti, just like a lot of us are, he definitely has a different way of doing some things. I think the amount he pours into each player showed up last year and we saw the success they had. I think if you look at their starting quarterback and you listen to that person, like he definitely knows who he is. He definitely knows what his identity is. And he's comfortable in that. And he leans on that. But it impacts the players around him because of how well he knows himself. And he's consistent. If you watch the draft, if you watch what's happening when he's now with the Las Vegas Raiders, this guy knows who he is and he never wavered. But that probably started at home with him. But
Mm.
a lot of times we don't have that situation. Sometimes we inherit athletes that did not have that foundation. So the onus becomes it's on us to help to develop that.
All right, so the summer championship series, every habit that Pat just described, we build it into a system. We wanna make sure that from tonight and the checklist and the resource I'm gonna email you guys that you guys can do a lot of these things all on your own. But if you guys are looking for a system that you can plug and play, parts or all of it, we have that. Our, Mental Edge Academy, it's an apps where we do modules, videos, written things, audios on everything that Pat and I talked about. The blueprint sessions, that's on building team culture, identity workshops. We help out coaches, we wanna invest in them, so we wanna invest and show them some habits on reducing burnout. Live coaching, it's Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 8. So this is a Wednesday, that's why I scheduled it for tonight. Tomorrow, I have Brad Davison, assistant men's basketball coach, University of Wisconsin. His wife is on the women's side, all-time leading scorer from IU. So Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, we're constantly doing coach-led sessions on different topics. You guys can show up, anybody can come. And tomorrow's topic is leadership from any role. One of the things we'll also added this summer is the Captain's Core, developing leadership, and then the Standard Series. What's that look like? There's active brain management exercises that athletes and coaches can do daily. There's weekly live coaching and monthly. As you guys know, you improve what you measure. So there's reports every Tuesday. There's assessments every 30 days. We want to constantly see how we can move the needle and stack wins. What are you guys going to receive? The summer planning guide. It's not 12 pages any longer. I think it's up to 16. We kept adding more stuff, but we took models from all 6 coaches and we have different playbooks, different tangible action items that you can implement on Monday. So I'm not saying do them all. That gets overwhelming, but you can lean into 1 or 2 and start implementing those and constantly evolving your culture. If you're looking at have it being more granular, we made that too. So there's a 12-week summer calendar going over all these different things that we put in the guide, but also we have the resources to work with all the coaches, whether it's football, soccer, lacrosse. Doesn't matter. But we put all this together so you guys can have it on your own, but also lean into us. If you want to partner, this is all we do is mental performance training. So let's stop sharing and see if you guys have any questions in the chat. Fire away. For me, Pat, let's have it. Because if you guys want to stick around when we're done, ask me more questions about our summer programs. They start next Monday, but if you're not ready for that, we can start in 2 weeks or in July or in August. But you got questions, send them in the chat, or if you guys can unmute everything and fire away. Anything. Okay.
Yeah, gentlemen, they can reach out to me. I put my website in the chat if they want to reach out to me directly.
Beautiful. Pat, where can I find you on social media?
Just go to my website and I got all the links and everything on there. So pativey.com.
And your podcast that you do?
Everything's on my website.
Beautiful. Okay. We want impact, so let people know how we can help, whether you guys use our service or not. Spread the word, and we're making a difference that way, and that's one of our calling. That's one of the reasons I love working with Pat. He's lived it, and he's intelligent on top of it, not just a good-looking face. And I'm grateful for the gift tonight, Pat. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the invite. Hope everyone does well. Take care.
For sure. Anybody else wants to stay on, ask me questions about our summer program, let's do that. If you guys want, I know you guys have the link. You guys could set up one-on-ones with me later, and or send me an email, and we'll go from there. But if you want to stick around, I'll be here for a few minutes. So otherwise, you're good to go. They're all slowly go. That's all right. Ooh, Justin, you have a hand raised there. Asked to unmute.
Hey,
Justin, I see you
coach,
got a hand.
it got me.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having us on here. I got a quick question for you on confidence.
Yep.
We've been teaching our leadership council about the idea of confidence. You hear so much from athletes how coaches can steal my confidence, or coaches can instill confidence in us. And trying to get our guys to understand that confidence is a feeling, right? Like no more than if you're angry or upset. My question is, at your level, how is confidence being taught in a way that we can get our athletes to really own it and develop it without it getting on that emotional roller coaster of confidence that when things are going well, it's easy to be confident, right? And
Yeah.
then, when you're going through a tough time, you're going through the battles and playing against a great opponent, sometimes that confidence wanes a little bit. So at your level, what are some of the best techniques that you're doing to teach it?
Gotcha. What topic are you absolutely 1000% confident on?
What topic am I 1,000%?
Is it eating a cheeseburger? Is it driving your car? What's something you absolutely know that I got this?
Man, I'll tell you what, that's funny because I use the example with my players that we know our ABCs, man. I don't care where I'm at, what I'm doing, I know my ABCs.
So here's the deal. Like, I can hype someone up. I could point out, hey, that person's not as good as you. And building this confidence when you like use our app or some other coach is talking you through these things, you develop some hope and you develop some belief, but you don't have it yet because you doesn't have exactly have had the rep. So if you squatted 450 and 475 was pretty decently fast and you put 500 on your back, you don't know you have it yet, but you got a pretty good belief that you do because based on the data, on what you've done, you're probably going to get it. And then once you hit the 500 squat, then you got it. And you can't believe you'd beat the number one team until you've done it. So how do you build confidence without actually having earned the rep yet? It takes all the little reps and you got to point them out and they have to be cognizant to look for them. Did you go through the thing where you know your position backwards and forwards in all the film? Yes. And the guys around you. So if you're a middle linebacker, do you know the outside linebacker's duties and the guys in front? If you know your all those jobs exactly, then you're confident there. Get to bed on time, get plenty of sleep. Are you overhydrated? Have you been fueling? Have you been doing all your nutrition things? Do you ball out in the weight room? Do you ball out in practice? Do you check every box so that you check all these boxes? Well, then comes time on game day, you should feel pretty confident, but you're still not gonna have it all the way until you have that first hit and you knock someone out or you make that tackle or you do something well. So you could point out, "Hey, you've done all these things. You've earned the right to feel confident. Now go play that way." And you also like, going to that exam that you didn't study for it, that you didn't deserve the confidence because you know you didn't put in the reps. So when they do the things you can hype them up and emotionally you're getting them moving. But it all comes down to what do you do? Did you do all these things? Did you do them all where you can walk in? Here's the example I put in my book. My daughter, way smarter than me. She's in junior high, or she's a junior in high school. She's taking AP chemistry, and it's the day before the exam, and she's downstairs watching a movie, just doing nothing. And I go, "Are you good for tomorrow?" She goes, "Oh yeah." I go, "How do you know that?" Well, the teacher gave us some prior exams, some prior AP exams. I go, "Okay, how many exams did you get?" 20 years of exams, one each year. I go, "How many questions did you do on the exam?" On the exams, thinking she'd do 2 or 3. She goes, "Well, I did all 20." "What? Who does that?" I was horrible at chemistry. She goes, "I did all 20." So, when you do all the things, then you've earned the right. But if you haven't done the things, that you haven't earned the right. Like, if you're not intentional at practice in the weight room, you don't take your supplements and creatine, you're not hydrated, you don't get a gram of protein, you haven't done the film study where you know everything that's going on, then you haven't earned it. But you can quantify the steps and the tasks that they can say, "Hey, I've done these things, check this box. I've done these things, check this box." Man, you've done 80 out of 87 things. You're good to go, man. So lay it out for them because 'cause they're not mature enough to know. But hey, if you check these main boxes, these main priorities, then you're good to go. You should have plenty of confidence and get going. That's a good question. You got another one? Because I don't see any other hands raised. All right. Well, I'll be sending out the guide here tomorrow. And guys, hit me up on our mental performance program. It is outstanding. It is comprehensive. It's everything it's everything you would want and more. And you'd be so overwhelmed. You're like, oh my God. Now the next question is, can I really implement this? And the answer is no, you can't. It takes 2 years to do it all, but you'll move the needle a ton in the first week. So other than that, man, everybody, thank you for the time. This is what I love to do. We'll see you next time.